Sup y'all, Manny here, and today I'm going to talk about another game that's going to turn 20 this year. That is Medal of Honor Frontline that came out on PS2 way back in 2002. Now Medal of Honor Allied Assault, though dated, still held up pretty good. The shooting mechanics still worked, and it was still, pretty fun. So could we say the same thing about Medal of Honor Frontline? Now, quick note, this episode is going to be historic because it's the last review I am going to do in this room, because by the end of this week, well, as of the recording, I am going to move to a new place. So next time you see the next Just Cuz review, it'll be in a new setting, though. It'll probably look very similar to this. I don't know if I'm going to do anything new yet. But yeah, pretty big deal for me at least. Anyways, let's get to it. Let's see how Medal of Honor Frontline holds up in 2022. Okay, I can't believe I have to remind some people of this, but Nazis are bad, and they're a lot of fun to shoot in these games. Now, before we get started here, make sure you watch my Medal of Honor Allied Assault review first, since in there I go into more detail about the origins of this Medal of Honor franchise. Medal of Honor Frontline was released for the PlayStation 2 on May 29th, 2002, and on November 7th, 2002 for the Xbox and GameCube, and it is the fourth installment in the franchise. Published and developed by Electronic Arts. Now, I personally did not get this game until the summer of 2003 for PS2, and I absolutely loved it. I unlocked everything, got all the medals, yeah, I played the crap out of it. Then in 2010, when Medal of Honor was getting a modern reboot, the only reason I got that game was because it came with a copy of Medal of Honor Frontline HD. Yes, an HD remaster of this classic game with updated controls, widescreen support, slightly better graphics, and iron sight aiming. And trophies, can't forget the trophies. And no, I never finished the new Medal of Honor, the modern one. I only got like 2 levels in and I stopped playing. But anyways, I am gonna review the PS3 version of this game. So sorry purists, but this is the best way to play it right now. At least it is for me. Now when you first start the game, this is the main menu you're taken to, and this is what you hear. God, another great score by Michael Giacchino. They changed up the menu from the first game, but yeah, I really like it. Let's go through the story first. That shouldn't take long. You're back playing as Jimmy Patterson, the same protagonist from the very first Medal of Honor on PS1. And he's also in the OSS. Now, initially I thought there was a plot hole or a retcon here, because the first game tells you the date in which your mission takes place in, and so does this one. So I thought some of the dates were like cutting too close to each other for Jimmy Patterson to be involved in all these events, but apparently not. This takes place between 2 missions from the first game. I don't know, there's not too many articles talking about this that I could find online, and honestly, yeah, I'm being a little lazy here to really break it down, the dates and stuff to find out if it's a plot hole or not. I guess technically a plot hole here would be that you're getting mission briefings in the war room when you should be out in the field fighting. So the timing here doesn't make sense, but whatever. It's a nitpick. It doesn't ruin the game. Anyways, in this game, you'll start doing missions in D-Day and Operation Market Garden. Now, just like past Medal of Honor games, Jimmy Patterson is a silent protagonist, so he is not gonna have any dialogue. There's also no character where you spend enough time with for character development. But there is a story here technically. Around the middle of the game or so, you're gonna be going after a guy named Sturmgeist, who is the head of a secret project. That project being a new state-of-the-art jet fighter called the Ho-9, which was a real prototype jet fighter, and it really could have turned the tide of the war in the sky. So yes, your mission is to find Sturmgeist and stop the from completing that jet fighter. Real quick note here, there's no multiplayer in the PS2 version of this game, but the GameCube and Xbox did have multiplayer. The PS3 version does not have any multiplayer either. Now, it's not a big deal, but I used to play multiplayer with my little brother back in the first Medal of Honor on PS1, and we had a lot of fun. Great times. So it would have been cool if this one did have similar multiplayer, so back then me and my brother could have kept playing. Also, I was very curious to see a Jimmy Patterson character model, as we get a glimpse of him in the D-Day opening level, but never get to see him again. I don't know, it's just a curiosity thing, because I saw his character model in the PS1 version, which looked like so it would have been cool to see him in this game, but whatever, it's not relevant here. Now let me take you back to 2003 when I played this game for the very first time. And I had no clue that this was going to be the first level. I also had no knowledge of D-Day back then, as I didn't get into World War II history just yet. And I've never seen the film Saving Private Ryan. Holy shit. My mind was blown. This shit was intense. I was like, holy crap, I am in the middle of a war zone here. What is going on? These graphics were absolutely stunning at the time. Just the facial expressions here alone blew me away.
More of our boys over there! Help them move up the beach to the seawall!
It almost looked too realistic. It messed with my head. Like, it's like, holy crap, this looks so real. Remember, we went from this.
Can I help you find where you're going, sir? You don't have the proper identification.
To this.
Küchenpersonal, huh?
That is a big graphical leap. I was like, wow, this is what the emotion engine is capable of. Impressive. Now, yes, this does not look that impressive today, but these graphics to me look better than Allied Assault. Like in the level enemy mine, the rocky interior here just looked so realistic to me. Like, I remember back in the day, I would just stare at the walls like, wow, this looks so real. It looks like real rocks. But Allied Assault still runs better and smoother, as this game on PS3 has a lot of screen tearing. Like, I don't know why this PS2 game is having such a tough time running on a PS3. Like, this could have been a 60 FPS game easily, I think. Yes, I know the PS2 and the PS3 were hard to program for, but still. They should have spent a little more time on this so it could run better. Now, the animations here in Frontline look a lot better than they did in Allied Assault. They still look pretty great, for the most part. And they were all done by hand. There was no motion capture for this. But this is kind of a curse because everything is slower now. Like, they have to stop one animation to start another. And it's pretty noticeable. The enemies could barely throw grenades back. They're too slow transitioning to the new animation to throw it back. Sometimes the death animations don't make sense. So if they're holding a pistol, they might die like if they're holding a rifle. And just a bunch of instances like that where they start holding the wrong body part instead of where you shot them. The ones that get utilized when an enemy's up in a high tower or something and you shoot them in the head or somewhere else, and they will always hold their chest and look at their hand and then flop over. So there's some inconsistencies here with the animations. They look nice, but it's not accurate to where you shot them, really. Also, the reloading animation, while it looks pretty good, is a lot slower. At least it feels that way. You know what? Let's time it. Let's compare Allied Assault to Frontline in the reloading. Alright, so none of them hold a candle to how fast the guns reload in the PS1 games. But alright, to be fair, Frontline takes about a second longer than Allied Assault to reload a gun, in this case. But still, that 1 second makes a pretty big difference. Yeah, Frontline reloading is so slow. You know what it is too? There's no sense of urgency. He reloads the gun too nonchalant. Like if you're not in the middle of a war zone right now. And this is gonna be a bit of a nitpick, but I hate how he reloads a shotgun here and the Springfield sniper rifle, because those guns are reloaded one bullet at a time. But here he just has the same generic reloading animation no matter how many bullets you have left in the gun. And that is a detail that even back then bothered me. Most of the game is pretty realistic and that part isn't. And it just really stood out to me. Now I know I just finished complaining about how long it takes to reload a gun here. But for those two guns, I'd rather have the realism of reloading it one bullet at a time because it looks badass. Look how Allied Assault did it. Cool. Okay, it's like Revolver Ocelot. The thrill of reloading your gun.
I love to reload during a battle. There's nothing like the feeling of slamming a long silver bullet into a well-greased chain.
Okay, well, on the subject of guns here, I just want to correct myself. On the Allied Assault review, I said that a good portion of the guns in that game had more bullets than the guns here in Frontline. is only one gun, the Thompson to be specific. Here in Frontline, the Thompson has 20 bullets, and in an Allied Assault, it has 30 bullets. I'm not gonna research which one's more accurate because I don't think that's really important, but if there was a 30 bullet clip, they should have used that for Frontline as well. Also, I wish this game had more variety of guns, as there aren't that many here. Allied Assault has more different gun types, but to be fair, it did have 2 expansion packs with new weapons, and Frontline didn't. But anyways, let me make one more point about the animation, which is that everything is overly animated. I think they saw what the PS2 was capable of and just went overboard with that shit. Like, what the f? Thank God. I hate how the melee attacks look here. They look so stupid. Just swinging the front of the gun like that? Come on, use the butt of your weapon. I know, I'm nitpicking. There are 6 missions in this game with 19 levels overall. As usual, I'm not gonna get into details with all the levels because this video will get too long. But I will say most of the levels are pretty good and memorable, with only some being kind of bland and boring. I already talked about the D-Day mission, how amazing it was playing it for the first time, and it's still pretty good. Not as expansive as the Allied Assault version, but still pretty good and a great start. Another one of my favorite levels is Seaside Stowaway. This level is action-packed, and you have a lot of soldiers fighting alongside you, and a lot of great action set pieces. It's just a very cool level, and I swear they took this straight out of Saving Private Ryan, the little bridge part right here. I haven't got a confirmation of that, but I'm pretty sure that's what inspired it. And the music to this level, my God, one of my favorite tracks. Just like every other Medal of Honor game, the last level is absolutely nuts. You got enemies everywhere firing at you. It's just a mess. It's kind of fun but overwhelming, but once you get, the hang of it and know where everything is and take cover or whatever, it's pretty fun. So you end up killing Sturmgeist and stealing the whole 9 as the Allies reach the facility and you fly away with the prototype. Now the ending here is not that much more grand, but it is better than Allied Assault's ending. So yeah, there's that. Now one thing that Frontline has over Allied Assault is emotion. Some of the levels here are pretty sad. Like in the level Rough Landing, you actually get to see some civilians who are getting harassed by the This is something you don't see in Allied Assault. And the music that goes with this level, it's the icing on the cake and takes it to the next emotional level. Another level that's even more emotional is Arnhem Nights. This is also one of the few levels where you get to fight alongside other soldiers. And from the start of this level is non-stop war. You fight for every inch of land here. As fellow British soldiers start dying around you, you see just how destructive this war is. And the music to this level is just breathtaking. This is probably the level I played the most. Hell, I think it's my favorite level of all the Medal of Honor games. It is fun, but once you stop and look around you, it's just, again, emotional. This level is just true art. Now on to a level that's not as emotional, but still one of my favorites, and that is Enemy Mine. It has a bit of a Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom vibe, and it's just a blast. I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's short but fun. The only issue is that the gun you have that can fire really fast is the BAR, but it only carries 20 bullets. And again, it takes forever to reload your gun, so that really does hurt the flow. It doesn't ruin the level, but it does hurt the flow. Back in the PS2 days, I did an infinite ammo cheat where you don't have to reload your gun, but I couldn't figure out how to do it for the PS3 version, so I was stuck reloading every 20 bullets. And yes, I know, you're supposed to be strategic with the bullets you fire, and when you take the corners, that's your chance to reload the gun. But still, I know it's not realistic, but they should have just had a mounted machine gun here with infinite ammo and no reloads. Though I wouldn't say the level Riding Out the Storm is one of my favorite levels. It does have one of my favorite tracks from the OST here. It's so epic. One thing here too is that when you reach the end of the level, the guy you're after, Sturmgeist, he's right there in your view. All you have to do is shoot him, but no, you just stand there and watch him escape. Like, come on, Jimmy Patterson, shoot him! That part always bothered me too. And speaking of things that bother me, Medal of Honor keeps up with its tradition of being extremely difficult. Like, this game gets really hard. Giggity. But seriously, it's like very difficult and you have no checkpoints. If you die, you start all the way in the beginning of the level. That is nuts, because it's not like a lot of these levels are short to begin with. They're pretty long. Giggity. One of the updates they should have done for this version of the game is add checkpoints. At least one in the middle of the level. It's a lot of trial and error and luck. I'll admit, this time around, in order to get all the footage I need for this review, I passed the game on easy. I mean, I already passed this game on hard on the PS2, and also on the PS3 back in 2010. Here's my platinum trophy to prove it. So no, it's not necessary for me to do that again for this review. Trust me, I remember how hard this game is. Some of the levels towards the end kicked my ass, even on easy. Besides trying to save some time by playing on easy, the controls here were another issue. Like, it took me off guard how bad it felt. What made it worse is that I just finished playing Medal of Honor Allied Assault on the PC, which has very great controls. But even with the modern setup, Frontline's controls just felt so off at first. But yeah, I guess eventually I did get used to it, and aiming through iron sight did make it easier to aim. It was mostly accurate, though the pistol for some reason still sucks. The bullets go everywhere but straight. I don't know if that's realistic or what, but man, I hate the pistol in this game. The gameplay is about the same as Medal of Honor Allied Assault. You go from point A to point B, completing mission objectives until you reach the end of the level. Even though the levels here are pretty damn big, they're not as big as Allied Assault, so I guess it's a bit more linear. And if you do get stuck or something, just hit the select button and it'll give you a hint and basically tell you what to do next. And the mission briefings are still in the same format, with Colonel Hargrove explaining the mission to you.
Locate and infiltrate the base by any means necessary. Upon achieving this, you must radio us with its exact coordinates.
God, I love his voice. R.I.P. William Morgan Shepard. Now, when you pass a mission completely, the game takes a break from itself to give you an actual brief history lesson, which I like as a World War II history buff, but also reminds the player that this is based on real and very tragic events. Now in this game you also get to collect some medals by beating levels on hard and meeting other criterias. And the whole point of collecting them is that you get to unlock some making of videos. Now remember that PS2 discs were DVDs, so that's pretty cool that games now had some DVD extras, just like movies. And the PS2 version had a mockumentary that you could unlock, but I think they got rid of it for the PS3 version. I couldn't find a straight answer, but I think it's gone. Maybe some copyright issues or something, I don't know. Just speculating. Anyways, when I was a kid playing this, the humor went over my head. I thought it was a real documentary, but it was like satire. Yeah, it's still on YouTube. The HUD here, I don't like it as much as I liked Medal of Honor Allied Assault's HUD. It's too plain, and this is nitpicky, but I don't know why back then and now still, it really bothered me that the compass didn't have the north, south, west, east logos on it. That's what the PS1 version had. So I think that's why I was like let down a bit with that. The one in the Vita looked pretty huge, so maybe that's why they made it smaller and got rid of the letters, because it's not really relevant technically. It's just supposed to point you in the direction you have to go. Also, the compass will turn red depending on what direction you're getting hit from. That same function is also in the Allied Assault compass, which I forgot to mention. Another thing that really bothered me about this game is that I finished playing Medal of Honor Underground, which was a lot more action-packed and had tanks and people on half-tracks chasing you and whatnot. This game didn't have that. The tanks that you fight in this game are stationary and they don't really chase you or move around. I think one does move around, but it only moves around in a set track, so it's not as cool as Underground. That disappointed me, I'm not gonna lie. Now for the sound in this game is still pretty good. I like it a lot. But if I had to pick one, I think Allied Assault has better sound design. This one sounds good, but it sounds a little bit more muffled, with the sound in Allied Assault having just a bit more oomph, packs more of a punch, and sounds more real. Now the AI in this game is not the best, but neither was Allied Assault's AI. But yeah, here in Frontline there's more instances of them acting a little bit stupid, but they're still very fierce. The enemies can still kick your ass, even if they are a little slow sometimes. Now, besides the game having a lot of screen tearing, there are also some glitches, though there aren't that many. I did manage to catch a few in my gameplay recording, like my British ally here getting stuck behind a wall, to these floating boxes in the air, to this that just keeps on falling. Also, this very trippy shadow here that's still stuck in a T-pose. Yeah, it's like a shadow man. I mean, the did used to believe in the occult, and I don't think this is a glitch, but every time you kill an enemy and you look at their face, their mouth keeps opening up, like they're chewing something or gasping for air. I don't know if this was done on purpose, but I always thought that was weird and funny. I don't know. And this is gonna be my last nitpick, I promise. But in Frontline, they got rid of the grunt noises your character does when he gets shot. And remember, at the time, I just finished playing the PS1 versions, and they were grunt when they get shot. Jimmy Patterson's grunts in the first Medal of Honor was actually pretty funny, and one of my favorites. He just sounds like an old man when he dies. I think Jimmy does have a grunt here, but only when he dies, but you can barely hear it. So yeah, that's another nitpicky disappointment I have with this game. So to quickly recap, the graphics still look pretty good, it's just that the game does not run that well. Most of the levels are still pretty fun to play, and out of all the Medal of Honor games, this one has the levels that pack the most punch emotionally. And it goes without saying that the musical score by Michael Giacchino is amazing. It's probably my favorite soundtrack of all the Medal of Honor games, only because it has more emotional depth to it. Medal of Honor Underground came very close to be my top favorite soundtrack out of all the original Medal of Honor games, but if I had to pick one, yeah, Frontline just barely takes the top spot for me. But unfortunately, the controls, some of the animations, the lack of checkpoints, the sometimes super high difficulty is not a good look for this game, especially today. Though it's still very fun, and I love and appreciate this game, I gotta keep it real. Allied Assault is a better game, and has overall aged the best. Even though Frontline has a lot of nostalgia love from me, this game still has a lot of issues that stood out to me, even back then. So with that, I give Medal of Honor Frontline a 6.5 out of 10. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Medal of Honor Frontline, the PS3 version that has somewhat modern features. The game still hasn't aged that well. I was surprised myself how much I did not enjoy it nowadays, you know, because I love this game to death back in, even in 2010, I really enjoyed it. Nowadays, not as much. There's better shooters out there. I still like it, but I don't fully recommend it if you never played it. And again, this is the last review I'm gonna do in this setting. It is sad, I've been living here for 8 years. It's a good area, but you know, cost of living is going up, rent is high. And it's time for a new beginning anyways. My first legit short film was shot here and everything. So yeah, a lot of good memories here. But anyways, with that, this has been a review of Medal of Honor Frontline, just cuz. All right, let me press a button. I think that's a good one.